Check this thing out. 1986 Honda TRX 250R. Just picked this thing up for $3,000. Pretty much an unheard of price for this thing right now. The market for these is pretty insane. You cannot find one cheaper than $4,500 in my area, and that's for like a beat one. But these things go up to probably like $15,000 for a mint one. In my area, like an average one goes for about $7,000–8,000. So for one that's mostly complete, for $3,000 was a steal. Even though it seems like a lot of money, these things just keep on going up in value. People love these things, and they're really, really fun, fast quads. So the seller said this one hasn't run in a little while. He said it was having some issues bogging on top speed. So he put a aftermarket jet kit in it a while ago, and he said it didn't solve any issues. So he parked it, said it's been sitting for a couple of years. So the seller said basically just go through the whole thing, check everything over before you attempt to start it, just because it's been sitting for a little bit. So that's what we'll do today. Hopefully this thing fires up and runs. But yeah, she is in pretty rough condition. Like I said, it's mostly complete and original, but you know, it looks pretty beat on. You got the original wheels, original gold wheels. Still has the original exhaust on there, which is kind of rare. Most people take those off and put an aftermarket exhaust on it. Yeah, even has a little toolbox in the back. People usually take those off right away. Original seat cover, original plastics, and original paint. I mean, somebody definitely rode this thing, which is nice to see. You know, most people replace pretty much every part on here with brand new parts, park it in the garage and never ride them. So at least this one was ridden. Yeah, pretty much everything is original on it. You don't really find them like this anymore. So we're gonna go through everything on this quad today and then try to get this running and driving by the end of the video. And the goal is to get it running and driving good, because the seller said it was having some jetting issues. So we'll see what happens when we go through it all. You know, maybe the jets he put in weren't the correct ones. We'll see. But let's get this thing off the trailer, start digging into it, see what we find. Alright, a little walk around so you guys can see the condition of this thing. So there's the shot of it. Pretty cool looking quad. But as you get closer to it, you can see the amount of wear on this machine that it took over the years. Everything's pretty crusty on it. Needs a good cleaning too. Chain's a little rusty. Paint's worn off. Rims are kind of beat up. Tires are kind of flat. Looks like somebody welded a bumper plate on here. Probably broke off at one point. Actually looks like the steering stem's a little bit crooked too. Possibly. So it's definitely not a showpiece, but it wouldn't be a terrible candidate for a complete restoration. Alright, let's kick it over a couple times. Let's see what it sounds like. Kicks over good, feels like it has really good compression. I don't hear any knocking in the engine at all, but she doesn't want to run. Probably just needs a quick carb clean, I'm guessing, from sitting. But we'll go over the whole thing and get this thing in the garage, start working on it. Alright, got this one in the garage. Let's start going through it. So, first thing we're going to do is confirm it's from 1986. So right down here is the VIN, and the 10th digit is it looks like a G. So we're coming up here, and we're going to decode it. G, 1986. So it is in fact a 1986 Honda TRX 250R. Looks like it last was registered in 2019, so that's 6 years ago. So maybe that's the last time it ran, or the last time it ran good. I'm not sure. But let's check out the oil. Looks like this thing takes, let's see, is there an amount on here? Looks pretty corroded here by the coolant line. Hopefully that's not worn through. We'll check the oil, make sure that's not milky. Let's take a look. Alright. Pretty dark. Pretty thin too. I don't know if you guys saw that. Doesn't smell like gas though. And it's definitely not milky. It's a little bit dark. It's not horrible. Definitely not horrible. Let's go to the check bolt, see if there's enough oil in it. If it doesn't leak out, we know that it's not filled up with enough oil. And we'll probably do an oil change anyway, just because it's been sitting for a little bit. But for testing purposes, I'd like enough oil in there. See if anything leaks out. Huh, nothing leaking out. Let's see if I tip it just a little bit. Just kind of rock it. Nothing out of that check bolt hole. Let's pour a little oil in there. Not leaking out yet. Nothing yet. It's pretty low. There it goes. You can see it coming out now. So I poured about 1/4 of a quart in. So she was a little bit low. Hopefully that doesn't mean that the crank seal's bad. Let's see if there's gas in here. Not a whole lot. It does look like it's mixed though. Here. Ooh, there's not a whole lot in there. Not a whole lot of gas in there at all. So definitely low on gas, which is fine because we're going to put fresh fuel in there anyway. It looks like it had a tether on here at one point that's cut. So I don't know if maybe it was raced at one point. But yeah, you can see that's cut right off. So hopefully we get spark. We get on and off for the lights, high and low for the lights, and then run. The kill switch is right there. Throttle moves. I have no idea if the headlight works. But let's get that seat off of here and check out that air filter, see what that looks like. Let's see what the plastics look like on the fenders. A little bit rough. You can see the normal cracking there. A couple zip ties holding that together. And then like a little patch there. It looks like they tried to melt some plastic onto that crack there. But overall, for being original plastics, not too bad, you know? I believe that's the original seat cover. Definitely looks like it's all stained. It does say Honda on the back. All right. so it looks like there's a Canon sticker on here, so I'm guessing there's a Canon air filter in there. But it does have the air box and the air box lid, which is nice. Usually these are missing the air box lid. Take a look. Yup. Looks like a new air filter in there. Definitely K&N. Looks really good. Looks nice and clean in the air box. So that definitely checks out. Seeing if all these are connected here. Yeah, everything looks good there. Looks like it even has the original strap on here. That looks like the original gas tank to me. Oh, there's the tag right here. One of them. Still on there. Alright, let's check the coolant. See if there's anything in here. Oh, that's topped off. That's good. Doesn't look oily, does it? Let's just check for a blown head gasket. We'll kick this thing over, and if coolant spurts out of here, we probably have a blown head gasket. Not moving there as I kick it. Let's see what happens. Nope. So if that head gasket was blown, we'd be seeing coolant just spurt out of there. So that looks good, that checks out. Alright, here's the other tag on the other side. You see 1986. And this was made in February of 86. Kind of cool. Alright, let's see what the gas flow looks like from the petcock. Get this off. See if gas was going to the carb. Oh yeah, it was getting gas. Pretty good gas flow coming out of there. See what that gas looks like. It's the blue. Looks like it's mixed about right. Maybe a little heavy. But it doesn't look like any water in the gas or anything. I wonder what oil he used. But gas flow going to the carb is perfect. Wasn't like a little trickle or anything. So carb is definitely getting gas. I'm gonna quick go through the transmission gears. See if it goes through every gear here. Just to make sure. So this one has 6 gears. Uh-oh. There we go. First. Second, third, fourth, fifth, there's 6th. All right, back to neutral. So it shifts into every gear. That's how the tank setup is with the petcock. So 2 lines going to the petcock, and then you just have your petcock there with 1 line going to the carb. Tank doesn't look too bad. Originally it said to mix it 20 to 1. That would be pretty rich. Alright, let's see what we're dealing with here. Alright. Let's take off the boot here. Check that out. Doesn't look too bad. What kind of plug? BR8ES plug. Let's see if we can see any leaking around the head or anything. We shouldn't, because the head gasket seemed like it was good. You guys see any leaking? It looks pretty good. And then around the base gasket, I always like to check too. Right there, there's some moisture, but it looks like it's coming from the pipe. Looks like maybe it was running rich. You can see all the oil coming out right here. You know, it's pretty common for a 2-stroke, but there's a lot of pooling down below the pipe there too. It kind of runs down the engine as well. So I'm guessing it was running a little bit rich. Plug was in there. Let's see what this looks like. Ooh, actually looks pretty perfect. Nice and brown. Look at that. That's not bad at all. Nice chocolatey brown color. So I was really expecting that to be very rich. Alright, so that checks out too. Plug looked really good. Not super white, not super black, right in the middle. Nice brown color. So, I don't know, maybe the guy had the jetting spot on. Well, let's go ahead and check for spark. See what that looks like. Before we do that, let's take a look at the coil. See if these connectors are on here. Good. Sometimes a faulty connector that's like wobbling back and forth when you hit a bump can make it run sporadically and kind of boggy. Both connectors are nice and tight on there. That looks good. It looks like the connector here is taped up, probably so it wouldn't come apart. Alright, let's see what that spark looks like. Ground this out to the head, and we'll see. That looks pretty good. Let's see. Kick this over a couple times. See anything yet? Pretty consistent too, isn't it? So spark actually looks pretty good. So I don't think there's going to be any issues with that spark. So CDI and coil are probably fine. All right, next let's check compression here. So compression on a 1986 TRX 250R should be about 150 to 175. Anything over like 200 PSI, you want to run race fuel. Let's see what we get. 140 is a little bit low, but still not horrible. We're going to do throttle open and hope for the best here. Let's see what we get. Throttle all the way open. Gauge kind of fell. Holy. That's some good compression. 195 PSI. That's really good. That's with no oil down the cylinder. Holy cow. Is that a high compression piston in there? but that is amazing compression. So, compression definitely checks out. So far we've got good spark, good compression. So let's take a peek at that carb next. See what's going on with that. Of course, the original Coolant carb. Seems like the choke doesn't come up very high. Throttle's adjusted with the lever there. So it looks like the throttle is pretty far out. Yeah, let's just take a look, see what it's jetted at. It's hard to jet these things because I don't know what piston's in it. You know, is it a big bore? Is it a shaved head? I don't know any of these things, so I don't know if we should be running the stock jets or not. So it's kind of hard. We might have to play around with it a little bit once we get this thing to fire up. One really nice thing about the TRXs, the carbs are extremely easy to take out. You don't have to take out the air box. So just 2 clamps you have to take off, and that's pretty much it. This thing should pull right out of here. There we go. It's coming. There we go. Alright, we got her to come. There's the slide. It's going all the way back down. Get that out right away. Oh, that's on there. Oh cow. Ooh, it seems a little gritty. Somebody was riding in sand. Huh. Yeah. Somebody took off that choke a couple times too. It's all stripped out. Alright, let's see if there's any gas in here. It's definitely getting gas. Take that off. Take that line off. Alright. Let's see what's going on. Alright, here we go. Let's see what we're dealing with. Ooh. Yeah. She's a little crusty in there. Well, that would be why it didn't fire up. She is gunked up pretty good. Oh, look at that. Huh. Lots of gunk in there. Yeah, so I'm guessing those jets are pretty clogged. Definitely tell it's been sitting for a while. Yeah, pretty nasty in there. Look at the rest. I think that was the main culprit as to why this thing didn't run. Maybe the guy. Yeah, look at that pilot. There's a huge piece right in there. Yeah, I cannot believe that pilot. Look at that. Big chunk right on there. Main jet's clear though. Look at that. You can see right through it. Is the needle stuck? Nope. Needle looks good. So yeah, that pilot was completely packed full. Well, at least we know now it wasn't starting because of that. Get that pin to come out. Get that fluid out of here. Check out that needle. Looks good. All right. Seat actually has some crud in there. If you guys can see that or not. Take a look at the main jet. Looks like we're running, let's see, it's got a bunch of gunk on it. I can't even tell. We're gonna have to take it out and clean it up. Somehow that was clear. You can see all the gunk around it. Let's see, get a towel and wipe it off a little bit. 152. And I take it back, the main is pretty plugged up. Look at that. You can actually see how that hole isn't all the way clear. See the top of the jet has some gunk in there. So that affects how your top end runs. So, see all the gunk in that? Look at that. So that's clogging up that main jet. So it's basically making that jet like a 130 instead of a 152 is what it's doing. So it would be starving for fuel when you rev this thing out. So I wonder if the seller even put a new carb kit in here. That does not look like an aftermarket jet to me. That looks like it's been in there for a long time. I don't know. Oh, is that sticky in there? Yeah, look at pilot, pretty gunked. Definitely clogged. Yeah, that is super clogged. Let's see what we're running for the pilot. Looks like a 48. Here, semi turns out. We are sticky too. 1 3/4 turn out. Yeah, we're gonna definitely need the ultrasonic cleaner. She's a bit sticky in there. But has a spring. Doesn't look too bad. Alright, and then lastly, the choke. Let's see if we can get that out. Ooh, crunchy. Yeah, pretty gunked up in there too. And that needle had some sand on it. But looks like it's working. So, carb didn't look too bad. It was just kind of gunked up with a bunch of old gas. And obviously the pilot was completely packed full. Main jet was partially clogged and probably affected running big time. So I'm kind of thinking the seller just didn't clean out the carb. And that was maybe the issue. Look how clean that turned out. Sat in the ultrasonic cleaner for 20 minutes. Looks brand new. Alright, so the pilot's still pretty clogged after being out of the ultrasonic cleaner. We're just going to kind of go through it and see if we can unclog it with one of these wires here. There we go. Poke through. See all the gunk that came off of it. See in the wire there? Kind of move it around a little bit. What I like to do, put a little WD-40 on that. Just kind of soak it, because WD-40 is actually a cleaning agent. I like to just kind of push that WD-40 into that hole. It kind of scrapes all that gunk out of there. Move that around, and then I'll blow through it and it should be good. See how clear that is? So pilot looks good now. Alright, we got all the parts for the carb laid out here. You can see how clean that turned out. Bowl looks perfect. No more sand on the outside of it. And then both jets cleaned out perfectly. And we've got all the other parts over here. So we can finally put this thing back together. I did look up the stock jetting for a 1986 TRX 250R, and it looks like the pilot we have in is stock. It's a 48, so that's stock on a 86, but the main jet is a 152, and the stock is a 150. So we might have to put a 150 back in, we'll see. But I wouldn't think a 152 would make that big of a difference. So we're going to run it with the 152. We'll bring a couple of 150s along as well, just in case. But I thought that was interesting that there was a 152 in there, even though this machine's completely stock. Alright, I'm putting this carb back together. And I kind of noticed that the tab on the float is bent down really far. So what that does is it turns off the fuel sooner and doesn't allow as much fuel to come into the carb. So I looked up on the manual and it said that the float height from this surface here to the surface right here on the float, the top surface of that, should be 16 millimeters. Let's check that and make sure that's correct, because maybe it wasn't getting enough fuel. Alright, let's take a peek. So you want to hold this at like a 45-degree angle. You don't want the actual needle pin to be compressed. So now we're going to measure it just like that. Just where it's touching that needle. And we're going to see where it's at. Where are we at right there? Whoa, we're at 21. What? Oh yeah, we're pretty high. Like right there. Yeah, 21. 2135. So that's way too big. So we need to be lower like that. So let's adjust that tab a little bit. We're going to pull that up. So we're just going to bend that tab up just a little bit. See, that really lowered that down. Let's see where we're at now. Oh yeah, that's way lower. Pretty darn close, right? Oh, it's pretty darn close right there. 1761. So we should be 16. So just up a hair. Let's see if that did anything for us. Right about there. 1637. I'm calling that good. So before the flow height was like way up there. So now it's allowing more fuel in. Yeah, that was a big difference. So that flow height was set very incorrectly. All right, carb's all back together, looking perfect. Everything's working the way it should. Got the lines back on. So let's go ahead and check out the needle clip position on the slide here. So according to the manual, the stock position should be 4 notches down from the top. All right. Take a peek. It pops up like that. There we go. This comes out. Let's see what position we're at. So we're counting from the top. We're in the 1, 2, 3, 4. We're in the 4th position from the top. So that is at the stock setting. Looks good. All right, before we put the carb back on, let's check out the reeds. See what condition those are in. Could just be a broken reed causing issues as well. But I'm guessing it was that float height. Manifold for any rips. Cracks. I like to kind of pinch them a little bit just to see if there's a crack that's formed. This one looks pretty darn good. Inside looks good there. This manifold checks out. Let's just take the reeds out. Try not to rip these gaskets. There we go. The reed here is a little bit open. You can see light through it, I'm guessing. Yeah, right there. But that's the only one I see that's a little bit stuck open. That's not too bad. It doesn't look horrible. There's not much you can do about that. We can try tightening up that screw. Maybe that came loose. New reeds here. Yeah, I know those are tight. Yeah, so that's not a big deal. That won't make that big of a difference. It's just stuck open a little bit. All the other ones are good. So we could probably order up some new reeds for it just to make sure. But overall, they look pretty good. Nothing's broken on them. You know, those are pretty decent looking reeds. So I'm not worried too much about those. I don't think that would cause it to bog. All right, let's look at the piston here. Oh yeah, you can kind of see it in there. That looks pretty darn good. Pretty shiny. Almost looks like a new piston in there. All right, let's get this carb back on. Make sure our slide's still working. Looking good. All right, let's get this in. There we go. All right, we're putting a brand new plug in. Then we can check the plug tip after the first run and see what it looks like. That way we know if it's jetted correctly. The plug that was in it looked pretty decent, but may as well put a new one in and then we can actually see how it's running. All right. See if that's cleaned out now. We're gonna do another rinse. There's a couple black flakes still left in there. Looks like old gas. Gonna rinse it out with some pre-mix here. We mixed up a little 481 with Klotz oil and premium gas, so let's get that dumped in. All right, we're gonna drain the oil. Engine drain bolt is right there. So there's a skid plate on here, but luckily there's a hole in the skid plate and you can get to that bolt. So let's get that out. Check out this oil. Hopefully there's no chunks in it. Doesn't look terrible coming out. No chunks yet. So far so good. So this thing takes 0.63 quarts of oil. So let's fill this thing up with some fresh stuff. All right, taking a look at the oil. Not seeing any chunks floating around at all. Looks pretty darn good. No metallic flakes. So at least the oil checks out. Transmission should be fine then. All right, 0.63 quarts going in, or 630 milliliters. I'm gonna dump it in until the pink line there. And we're using 10W40. A little bit more. Just a hair more. We should be good. All right, perfect. Oil change is done. All right, everything is put back together. We have fresh fuel in it. Carb is all cleaned out. We've got the float height adjusted and the correct jets in there. Needle quit positions in the correct position. We've got coolant in it and fresh oil and a brand new plug, and compression is 195. So this thing should fire up. Let's turn the gas on and see if it leaks with that new float height. Maybe that's why the guy had it up so high. So far so good. We're gonna choke it and do the first start on this thing. Hopefully she fires right up. All right, how many kicks will it take? Here we go. Well, she fired right up. Almost first kick, actually. That was pretty good. It did leak a little bit of gas out of the overflow there, but it stopped leaking, so I'm guessing we're good to go now. But yeah, sounds pretty decent. Seems a little bit boggy yet. Might just be clearing out. So we're gonna try to get this thing to idle, and then we can take it for the first ride. But so far so good. This is pretty exciting. There we go, that sounds good now. That sounds a lot better. Must have just needed to clear out. Yeah, that's nice and crispy now. Headlights working. Smoking the perfect amount now. Sounds pretty peppy. Alright, I think what we're going to do is put all the plastics back on and take this thing for a little test drive. Alright, tire pressure feels pretty low. We're gonna pump these up a little bit. I don't know what style riding they were doing, but that seems really low to me. Let's see what we're at for pressure here. we're at 3 psi. Let's put at least 6 in there. We're at 4. So we'll put 6 in the rear and probably 10 in the front. That's probably good. But yeah, they were really low. Alright, that's running pretty good. Has really good power, really good speed. But to me, it feels like the exhaust is plugged up a little bit. Like when you lay on the throttle, it feels like it wants to go more, you know? Jetting should be spot on. We're gonna check the plug here in a little bit. But I noticed there's a lot of carbon buildup by the pipe here. You can see all that carbon coming out. I wonder if that's just really clogged up and restricting the airflow out. That's kind of what I'm thinking. So I think what we might do is take off the whole silencer and see if it clears out a little bit more. I mean, it's running good, but I feel like it could be running better. It's really, really close. But let's check the plug first, make sure our jetting's spot on. But yeah, this machine shifts through all the gears. Brakes are working good. So it's really, really close. And like I said, it revs out good, you know, when you're going fast, but it just feels like it wants to give more. Let's see what this new plug looks like now. Hopefully it's nice chocolatey brown. Oh yeah, I mean, that's pretty darn good. It's like really, really dark brown. So it's definitely not lean. We know that. Yeah, it's really, really dark brown. I mean, that's perfect. Alright, we're gonna try to take a look at that pipe. It almost feels like there's like a rev limiter on here. On there. Pipe is pretty hot. Alright. That is really heavy too. Let's see what it sounds like. Sounds a lot meaner already. Well, that was definitely the problem. It sounds so much better now. It revs out completely, goes a lot faster, a lot quicker, a lot more peppy. That's how it should be running. So that exhaust was definitely clogged. But yeah, that sounds mean now. It's a whole different animal. So we were close before, but with that exhaust off, it is a lot better. It just rips. So I am really happy we took that off and figured out the problem. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. You guys think it sounds a lot better? That's how this thing should sound. So yeah, this one's all good to go. So to clear out that exhaust, I think what we can do is burn off the carbon in it. We might have to just put that whole thing in a fire and see if we can burn that carbon off. Ooh, she's still pretty hot. But yeah, you can tell it's pretty plugged up. It's really heavy too. Just got this thing home after the first ride. We have to figure out how to clean out that pipe. So if anybody has recommendations on how they did it in the past that has worked for them, leave it in the comments below. I'm curious to see what you guys say. I'm looking for the easiest way to do it. So comment the easiest way that you guys have found to clear out a heavy carboned up exhaust pipe, because we have to do that in order to get this thing to run right. Because I'm not keeping it off and riding it like that. I know that it is extremely loud. So once we do that, this thing will be completely fixed. It'll rev out completely, doesn't bog at all, you know, and the jetting is spot on. That spark plug was nice chocolatey brown. So I am really happy with the way this one turned out. I was not expecting it to run that good based on what the seller was saying about it. But yeah, she fired right up. Idle's perfect and rips through all the gears. And you really actually have to hold on. You give a throttle, it wants to take off. So yeah, it's a fun machine to ride. I always forget how fun these machines are until you get back on them. They're just so light, easy to handle. Just a really, really fun machine. I see why they keep on going up in value. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Stay tuned for next video, and until next time, we are out.